Indy Rock here with another stream. It is Tuesday, January 3rd, 3:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. Hopefully all of you had a wonderful Monday, had a wonderful afternoon. On to crypto. The market cap sitting at $804 billion. Bitcoin dominance below 40% again. ETH dominance sitting at 18.4%. Bitcoin sitting at 16,655, trying to decide whether it wants to go lower or higher. Ethereum sitting at 1209, BNB at 245, Doge just above 7 cents, Cardano at 25 cents, Matic at 78 cents, basically. Taking a look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It seems like we're essentially trying to form this descending triangle of sorts, and these have a tendency to break to the downside. It's just a matter of when, not if, it's going to break to the downside. Again, we do have quarterly earnings coming out for a lot of companies here in the next week or two. We should get some CPI figures along with inflation numbers, stuff like that. So that'll kind of give us clear ideas to where the Federal Reserve is going for next meeting, which I believe occurs next month. So we still have a few weeks till that happens, but again, they did mention that they're going to be continuing with the rate hikes for the foreseeable future. I think they're going to pivot sometime either in quarter three or quarter four of this year. But again, I think we have a lot of pain before that ever happens. So just be ready to roll with the punches, so to speak. So Bitcoin more or less keeps bonking its head right around 16,700, a little bit below that, more like around 16,680, 16,670. And that's just the way Bitcoin has been working here in the past few hours or so. Taking a look at the hourly chart, we can potentially be forming this ascending triangle. And in comparison to our descending triangle friend over here, ascending triangles actually have a pretty solid chance to break higher. So, not saying it's for sure going to go higher, but these have a higher likelihood to go up compared to going down. Again, things not looking too great for Bitcoin on the daily chart. Could probably draw some sort of descending triangle on the daily if we really wanted to. It's not very hard, but you could do something like that. That's the beginning of it. Maybe extends out over here into middle of February, maybe end of February, maybe beginning of March, and then put in the bottom of this triangle, maybe around here some point. I mean, really depends. You can draw it any way you see fit. Obviously, this line could arguably be down here instead. Could be even up here because it's where Bitcoin is hit the most times, right around this range. But anyways, I'm not here to teach you how to draw triangles on TradingView. You can do that on your own time. um, but dollar currency index, or DXY, has rallied somewhat here in the past few hours and in the past day or so. So if this trends higher, we can anticipate some more bleedage out of Bitcoin and crypto along with stonks. This one also seems to be forming, by the looks of it, maybe a bearish pennant or something like that. Again, I'm no TA expert, but things do not look too great on this chart if you were to ask me. But that's just my opinion. 14 years ago, Bitcoin was born. The Bitcoin blockchain produced its first block, officially marking the beginning of cryptocurrency. The first Bitcoin block included a message which referenced the bailout of the banking sector by central banks back in 2008. Bitcoin has been declared dead almost 500 times since its inception, but crypto adoption has only continued to grow. So you tell me, is Bitcoin really dead? Fourth Bitcoin halving, just a reminder, is next year. So we have that to look forward to, and this is typically the trend. Now, this doesn't take into account for the macro potential of a great a great recession or possibly a depression, so to speak. So this trend doesn't really account for that, but as you can see, years after the halving, first one was in 2013. Um, that year, we saw Bitcoin pop off like crazy, and the following year, or I'm sorry, the first halving was in 2012, then the next one was 2016, next one was 2020, and then the third one or the fourth one will be in 2024. Typically, those years are up. Just the 2 years after the Bitcoin halving, or about a year and a half, is when things go down significantly, um, which is kind of what we saw at the end of last year, leading into this year. If you invested $1,000 in Bitcoin just 10 years ago, you'd have over $1 million today for that $1,000 worth of Bitcoin just a decade ago. Pretty crazy to think about. El Salvador ambassador to the U.S. Many more Bitcoin investors will come to the land of economic freedom. I'm telling you, El Salvador is definitely a place that I'm looking at for the future. Maybe look into dual citizenship. Not financial advice, but that's maybe something I'm looking into. One of Ukraine's largest pharmacy chains, ANC, now accepts Bitcoin. I'm assuming this is the same set of pharmacies that accepts Bitcoin. Looks like they have 1,000 pharmacies total. So pretty big stuff happening over in Ukraine. Australia gets its first Bitcoin ATM on the Lightning Network. It's coming from Cointelegraph. The reason why this is significant about Bitcoin and crypto payments is, Ukraine is in the middle of a war right now. So um, a lot of people want to store their currency in something that will retain value and hold value. In contrast, currencies around the world are being inflated at rates we haven't really seen in generations. So it's good to have something like crypto and Bitcoin to put your money in to hold some worth, and now they can use it at pharmacies. So that's pretty cool. Hong Kong to allow retail investors to trade Bitcoin and crypto from 1st of June, according to forecast. This is pretty big. Um, you know, in my opinion, this is pretty bullish. The fact that China's kind of hopping on board with Bitcoin, and they're going to allow retail investors to start hopping into the space. That's not to say some retail investors aren't already in the space that are from China. I'm sure they have their ways around regulations and firewalls and stuff that prevents them from trading like you and I here in the West. But this is pretty bullish if you ask me. Now the question is China going to ban crypto again, Bitcoin and crypto, shortly thereafter, because they have a tendency to do that. They kind of like to be super pro crypto initially, and then they're like, oh, yeah, we're banning it again for the 100th time. Mark Cuban saying Bitcoin is a store of value and a good investment. Gold bar, in his opinion, is useless. Again, reiterating this whole thing with Ukraine. A lot of people had to flee the country as a result of the invasion from Russia, and a lot of people took their valuables and put them in suitcases, and then when they went through customs trying to get out of Ukraine, they 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 get their gold confiscated because they don't have receipts, they don't have papers to prove that gold is clean and etc. You can see the problem. You can see the problems around this. Basically, confiscation of wealth by the government. No bueno. But again, it's good that People like Mark Cuban are pushing the idea of Bitcoin and the utility and the value behind it. Fleeing Puerto Rico with gold bars shoved up his butt to avoid prison time after his bank got busted just guessing. Plane passenger caught smuggling gold nuggets and wrecked them to avoid taxes. And I believe someone was like, "Yeah, this is a solution for Bitcoin. Bitcoin, yeah, right here. Bitcoin fixes this." So no more shoving ounces of gold up your bum when you can just have some Bitcoin. Bitcoin miners generated $9.55 billion in revenue in 2022, as we discussed in a previous video. I believe yesterday or the day before. Um, we discussed how the miners were barely turning a profit when it came to revenue, and this is kind of an issue because more and more miners, if Bitcoin doesn't find a bottom soon, um, a lot of miners are going to be forced to sell their mining rigs to cover the costs that it costs them to mine said Bitcoin. So just let that sink in. We could see a lot of mining rigs and operators potentially drop out indefinitely or even just short term. So that would not be great for the ecosystem, but it may need to happen at some point. Uber is a bad idea, according to the taxis. Airbnb is a bad idea, according to the hotels. Computers are a bad idea, according to newspapers. And banks are now saying Bitcoin is a bad idea. Isn't it interesting how history has a tendency to rhyme in some way, shape, or form? We can't have good money. Again, before we take the things out of the hands of the government, that is, we can't take it violently out of their hands. All we can do is, by some sly roundabout way, introduce something that they can't stop. This is a quote by Frederick Hayek. Um, he was an he was an economist. He essentially believed that, to my knowledge, he believed that if markets were left unchecked, they kind of balance themselves out in the long run, basically against government overregulation, government oversight, etc. But yeah, Bitcoin could you could argue that Bitcoin is kind of doing this. It's being the sly roundabout way, and it's the something that the governments can't really stop. Here's a nice clip from Dylan LeClaire.
Guys, there's been two times in the history of U.S. financial markets that stocks and bonds have drawn down to this level in the same year. It's actually, there's only, I think, 2 or 3 years that they've ever both drawn down in tandem. But both of those years, they both drew down 20% plus, and this is one of those years. The years were 1931 and 1969. 2 years after, within 24 months of both of those events, the U.S. defaulted on its debt. Both times, they defaulted on their gold promises. One was FDR, who basically revalued gold higher and they confiscated everyone's gold. The second one was the Nixon shock, where they basically said, nope, global central banks, we're not honoring your promises. This is just paper money now. So here we are in a paper money world. How do they default on the debt? And once again, they're going to default in real terms. They're defaulting in purchasing power terms. They're going to do that by printing, debasing the currency. Creditors, bondholders lose their purchasing power, and where's that purchasing power going to go? That's the $100 trillion question, and that's why I'm here.
I guarantee you a lot of that money is going to flow into Bitcoin. It's only a matter of time before that happens. But not financial advice, but it's definitely something that I have my eye on here in the crypto space. Something that is a 100% hit rate. When Coinbase becomes the number one app in the world, you have about 1 to 2 weeks time to sell everything before the doom begins. This happened basically at every major cycle top. It happened back in January 2018. I recall that. That's actually where I bought my crypto from all the way back then, May 2021 and November 2021. If you recall, in, I believe, late April of 2021 is when Bitcoin put its new all-time high in right around 64K before dropping below 30K, and I think in less than like a matter of like 8 to 10 weeks, I think it hit as low as like 27K, and then it went to rally to 68.8K all the way in late October, and then we had altcoins rally shortly thereafter, and since then we saw Bitcoin drop initially to I believe like 50K or whatever, and then we went down to like 40, then we went to 30, then we were chilling at like 20 something for a while, and now we're chilling right between 16 and 17K. Breaking, Alameda almost collapsed back in 2018. Back then, FTX was launched and customer funds were used to support Alameda, according to the Wall Street Journal. For F's sake, like, what the hell? Like, writings on the wall, like, this is not the first time they've mishandled customer funds. They just finally got caught. Um, SBF slash sorry underscore FTX asks judge to block the names of two individuals assigned as bond. On behalf of defendant SBF, we respectfully submit this letter. Motion requests limited modification of one portion of the bail conditions ordered by a magistrate Judge Gorenstein at Mr. Bankman-Fried's initial appearance December 22nd of 2022, specifically requests an order from the court directing the names and other identifying information of Mr. Bankman-Fried's two remaining bail sureties be redacted on bonds they will sign and be not publicly disclosed by the government pursuant to the order setting conditions of release. The deadline for two additional sureties to sign the bonds is this Thursday, January 5th, 2023. We have conferred with the government on this issue and have been informed the government takes no position on the request. What is he trying to cover up? Like, why does it matter who's bailing you out? Is it because is it going to bring question as to how those individuals came up with 25 million to bail you out? Is it your parents, Sammy boy? I don't know. I'm making zero accusations, but it is odd that Biden flies to the Virgin Islands, and days later, the Virgin Islands attorney general who filed a lawsuit against J.P. Morgan for aiding Epstein gets terminated. Yeah, weird coincidence. Also, weird coincidence. Justice Department is concealing 400 pages of sensitive documents, laying bare payoffs and gifts to Hunter and Jim Biden from China, Russia, and Ukraine. After acknowledging the papers exist, the lawyer claims in suit. Pretty weird coincidence. I wonder what that has to do. Oh, it's just Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, uh, you know, with bare payoffs and gifts from China, Russia, and Ukraine. Two of these, I'm pretty sure we're kind of at odds with. So it's kind of weird that our government is getting, or certain individuals in our government, their family members are making some serious money with those countries. Kind of weird coincidence.
Of the January 6th committee, Mr. Epps was in front of the January 6th committee, and we were told that a transcript of his interview would be released, but it's never been released. And I wondered, was he sworn
None of the transcripts have been released, so you don't need a conspiracy theory about that. We haven't released any of
Were
them.
you present when he was interviewed? That would give me.
No,
gets
I
so
was not.
pissed off.
I was not. We've done more than 1,000 interviews. You guys are trying to make this poor schmuck who showed up to your protest into something a lot bigger than he is. Okay, he's just trying to survive, and he's on your side. You don't have many voters left. You might want to try to hang on to them without demonizing and vilifying your own people. That's the Donald Trump way. Sell everybody else down the road. Unless you're going to get a pardon. Some people are still hanging around waiting for their pardon. But most people have opened their eyes about what he's done to our country, what he's done to his family. Have you guys ever read the book by Mary Trump about the way that Donald Trump has absolutely destroyed their family, wrecked her father's life? They do it to family, they do it to friends, they do it to their own associates and employees. And now you guys are doing it to this poor Ray Epps. Leave that guy alone, whoever he is.
Whoever he is.
I yield back to Ms. Garcia.
Yeah, it's kind of weird when they get so
Mr. Epps
defensive
was
like that. It's like they have an interest in the subject at hand. That one hits a little close to the mark. Rep Raskin, the guy who got so touchy feely. It's revealing the contempt they show for everyone else who participated in January 6th, but poor Ray Epps is a victim they need to protect, even though we have video of him doing everything they claim to hate about January 6th. Yeah, pretty weird stuff. Literally, Ray Epps was calling for to storm the Capitol, and everyone called him out to be a Fed when he did that. Ironically, J6 committee didn't push back on Epps' narrative that Antifa did it, not him. Staff and members of the committee so thoroughly beclowned themselves that they sat on the transcribed interview for over a year, released it only in the final week of their existence. And weirdly enough, if you look this up, it comes out that Ray Epps says, I also orchestrated it. Why isn't he in jail? Because more and more things are pointing to him having ties to three-letter agencies in our government. So he's being protected by his puppet masters, his puppeteers. Republicans, just a reminder, the Republicans are currently pressuring Kevin McCarthy the way that the squad easily could have done to Nancy Pelosi back when she was trying to be the Speaker of the House. But many fake leftists provided cover for them voting for Nancy Pelosi for nothing because they hate Jimmy Dore. The progressive movement is a joke. Yeah. It's progressive only in the name. Here is how it works, Lagarde. There is societal contract between a central bank and the workers. If the European Central Bank keeps inflation at bay, workers will have moderate demands. The European Central Bank does not keep inflation at bay, workers will demand more. It all started with you and the European Central Bank. Just as a reminder, that the ECB the other day was saying that wages were the issue, that wages were making inflation more rampant. Like, how out of touch can these people be? Wages are only going up right now to keep up with inflation, and wages aren't going up across the board, mind you. The year is 2030, and the ECB has implemented the digital euro. Here are your phone notifications. It's kind of preview as to what you may be seeing on your smartphone in a few years' time. Payment decline. Turn on location services to allow ECB wallet to verify and process your payment. Green tax. Your payment number 35467 carries a 25% carbon tax, increased tax rate, rebate benefits by boosting blah blah blah. Alert: funds not spent within the next 12 hours will be lost. Follow the links provided. Score: boost your social credits by spending 100 euros before the end of this weekend. Before this weekend, pardon me. ECB approved. Yeah, pretty crazy stuff. I know it seems far fetched, but that Black Mirror episode with the societal credit score, that thing is definitely a real thing. The carbon emissions taxes will be another thing, so just something to pay attention to. Dr. Risch, professor of epidemiology at Yale, says hundreds of thousands of lives could have been saved if hydroxychloroquine, and I'm butchering that, sorry, had been used at the outset. But as we all know, the mainstream media suppressed that treatment along with ivermectin, saying that was horse dewormer paste, and just degrading everyone to being hillbillies. Now that's horse paste, y'all. Like, come on. So degrading. 3 years straight, they said, want to see your family, get the medical procedure. Go back to school, get the medical procedure. Keep your job, get the medical procedure. Go to concert, get the medical procedure. Now, countless individuals tragically falling down around us at an alarming rate, and you can't ask if they took a medical procedure. No, I don't think it's ever too soon or out of line to propose the question. It's a question, it's a valid one, considering, in case you forgot, the entire world population has been force fed medical procedure propaganda nonstop for 3 years straight. It's extremely concerning. You are allowed to ask, and nobody should make you feel bad for it. You should question everything you demand, and you should demand answers. That's what must be done right now. The media feeds a lot. Sorry, The media feeds us lies. The TV doctors won't debate. The government keeps turning a blind eye to these tragedies, so you ask. Yeah, pretty crazy, the propaganda. Breaking news, shop closing hit the highest total in 5 years. UK budget deficit has also soared. Nothing to see here. Just seeing the house of cards fall before our very eyes. But again, everything's fine, according to the government officials. China to hike gasoline and diesel prices from Wednesday. Will that potentially affect how much we're paying at the pump here in the West? Time will tell, but nonetheless, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's stream. If you did, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to be notified when we go live next. We'll be live tomorrow, 9:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. Sorry for the late stream, but just had to reschedule it. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video, and take care.